Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Almaty in Kazakhstan. Now, there are two different Almaty regions in Kazakhstan. One you can see is this huge area here, the Almaty region. And then there is Almaty city. Now normally I would split these up into two videos, talk about Almaty in one, Almaty city in the other, but I thought, you know what, instead of making like two 20-minute videos, let's just make one big 40-minute video and talk about both. Why not? So just keep in mind that we are talking about the Almaty region and Almaty city, which is its own region. Almaty city is the most populated city in Kazakhstan, easily the biggest, most bustling city in Kazakhstan, and we'll talk about why and its history. You can see it's very close to the border here with Kyrgyzstan as well. But Almaty in general is a very amazing area. Now, I've done some videos on Kazakhstan before, talking about how most of Kazakhstan there is just nothing there. It is just the steppe grassland as far as the eye can see, and that's about it. And I got a comment not too long ago from someone saying, like, I think you got that from a Russian source, because there's actually a lot in Kazakhstan, and they listed all these things, and I'm thinking they're like, yeah, there are a lot of things in Kazakhstan, just not in the places I was talking about. But here, there are a lot of things to talk about, so I'm really excited. There are big stretches of steppe grassland where there is nothing, but there is a lot in Almaty to talk about. Let's talk about the obvious one first, Lake Balkhash. You can see up here, splitting the border between here and Karangandi, I believe, and other areas here, because it's a very large lake. Pretty sure it's the largest in Kazakhstan. The Ili River flows out to this big reservoir here and keeps flowing out. So it kind of intersects this entire region here. And the area around the river is very fertile, lots of farmland happening there. There's a really beautiful lake region over here. These are the Almaty mountains. Up here is the Tian Shan mountains that create the border with China. Sorry, not the Almaty, the Alatau mountains. The Ili Alatau, there we go. Trans-Ili Alatau. We'll talk about Almaty in a minute. Trans-Ili Alatau. And at the tops of these mountains, you can't see on this map, but are lots of really cool lakes. It's a really beautiful, beautiful area, and it like frames Almaty very nicely. You can see the mountains in the background of the city. So it's very, very mountainous around the borders here, and much flatter up here, but with lots of rivers and farmland and things. Over here in this area where there's lots of cool mountains and the rivers flow through, I think it's the Ila River actually, is the Charin Canyon, which I'll show you on Google Earth. It looks like the Grand Canyon. It's really, really beautiful. And the landscape in general in this region is just very, very, very beautiful, especially around the mountains. It's something else. It's lovely. It doesn't look like, when you picture Kazakhstan, you think of like the nomads and the herders and things, but yeah, you don't picture beautiful scenes like these, so I really like it. There's a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Almaty. It's around here or so. There's actually quite a few UNESCO sites. Well, not really. There's like technically two. One of them is part of a much larger site about the Silk Road. Most of the sites are in China. I think Almaty and somewhere up here near Lake Balkhash are sites. But the description and the pictures on UNESCO's website are all about the Chinese one, so we're going to ignore that one. We're going to talk about the really fascinating one in Almaty district, and those are the petroglyphs of the archaeological landscape of Tanbali. Let's read about it. Set around the lush Tanbali Gorge amidst the vast arid Chu-Ili Mountains is a remarkable concentration of some 5,000 petroglyphs, rock carvings, dating from the second half of the second millennium BCE to the beginning of the 20th century. That's how long they've been making these pictures. That's so incredible. Distributed among 48 complexes with associated settlements and burial grounds, they are testimonies to the husbandry, social organization, and rituals of pastoral peoples. Human settlements in the site are often multi-layered and show occupation through the ages. A huge number of ancient tombs are also to be found, including stone enclosures with boxes and cists from the Middle and Late Bronze Age, and mounds, which are called kurgans here, of stone and earth from the early Iron Age to the present. The central canyon contains the densest concentration of engravings and what are believed to be altars, suggesting that these places were used for sacrificial offerings. Let's take a look at this incredible rock art. I am such a nerd for petroglyphs and rock art, and these are some remarkable ones. Look, you can tell that this is a guy riding a horse. There's a video here, really interesting. I obviously can't play it because it's owned by NHK, I believe, the Japanese broadcasting. So these pictures were all of like deer and bulls. You can tell by the big antlers here. But then once horses started to become more prominent in the area and more important, they started carving over them and making them into horses with riders. That's why some of the horses still have antlers. Really, really neat. Just shows like how long they were making these pictures in these rocks. Really something. There's a horse for sure. And there's a big old bull. Look at those horns. My goodness. Really, really remarkable artwork here. It's really something else. And not what you'd imagine in Kazakhstan. This is my favorite one. I'm glad there's a picture. So you can see all the animals up here. They believe that this is some kind of sun deity up here. There's all the animals. And then down here are all the people dancing around. That's remarkable. Remarkable. I love it. I'll show you more on Google Earth. There's a little museum there and everything. We'll take a look at it. So that kind of shows you the early inhabitants of the region. Very nomadic, but still pastoral, right? Followed herds and found that the wild animals here to be almost sacred in a way to their way of life. And then, horses were introduced and horses became almost sacred to their way of life. Up until the 20th century, isn't that something that they were still drawing those in the 1900s? Wild. This region, which was kind of like this here, was known traditionally as Jetisu. Jetisu. The first conquerors of the region, because it was just nomads and things at the early years, the earliest conquerors were the Scythians. Later, various Turkic peoples would come in, living a nomadic lifestyle. And this was during the period of the Silk Road. So lots of traders coming from China or even from the Mediterranean, crossing through the area here. In about 1620, a Mongol group known as the Chungar came in through. The Chungar Khanate took over. Now, they were Mongols, don't get me wrong. When you picture Mongols, you think of Genghis Khan and the hordes and the fighting and the wearing the furs, top the horses, yelling with their swords, you know. They were Mongols, but this was in the like new era of the Mongols where they were devout Buddhists, but still, you know, conquered in a way. Not quite like Genghis Khan would have done, right? Because they were Buddhists at this point. But they took over and established their lifestyle here. In 1755, the Chinese conquered the area. This was the Qing dynasty, which was the last dynasty of China, with rulers from Manchuria ruling over all of China. They expanded their territory into here until 1854, when the Russian Empire took over. Now, Russia and China were having lots of territorial disputes, mainly over on the east, but also to a lesser extent over here. And they signed a treaty to just kind of delineate where Russia ended and China began. And Russia wound up taking this chunk here. And that year they built some forts, the largest of which was called Verny, which is now Almaty city. That's when it started. And the forts were just to defend and protect and maintain and watch over the area, because, like I said, this area was just primarily nomads. But with Mongol ancestry, so making sure everything's all square. They would build outposts out in the steppe wilderness just to maintain and watch over the land. But Verny was the one that really started to grow and boom, pardon me, into a much bigger settlement. It kind of remained that way. It grew and grew during the 1900s, railroads, industries. And then the Russian Revolution happens in 1917. Things got pretty chaotic here in the town, but the dust settled and eventually the Soviets would come and claim their land. In 1921, it was renamed to Alma-Ata, which is I assume this was the Russianized version of what the locals here called the area. So Verny is gone. This area became Alma-Ata. And this area just boomed in industry and housing and expansion throughout the 20th century. It became the capital of the Turkestan Autonomous SSR, Soviet Socialist Republic, in 1927, and it really expanded during World War II, since most of Russia's big industry was over in Western Russia, which was under threat of invasion. Many companies moved to Alma-Ata, which just expanded the economy, housing, everything, even more. Independence came to Kazakhstan in 1991, and in 1993 they renamed it to Almaty, which is what the region is called in Kazakh. I should mention real quick, because I was mentioning the Dzungars, the Chinese, the Russians, lots of different peoples. I didn't mention the Kazakhs. There wasn't really a lot of Kazakh presence here for quite a while, until the Soviets started organizing these areas by ethnic groups. Like we have the Kyrgyz, the Uzbeks, the Tajiks, and the Kazakhs. So this area became kind of a forced Kazakh area. Like if you identified as Kazakh, you had to move here. So it wasn't originally a very Kazakh populated area, but the Soviets made it into it. So it became part of Kazakhstan and its capital for a long time, until 1997, when it was moved to Astana. And yes, it was renamed Nursultan for a minute. They changed it back in what, 2021, 2022? I think like the very, very end of 2021, they changed it back to Astana. So yes, it is called Astana again. But Almaty is still the heart of industry, commerce. It's where the majority of Kazakh people live today. The most major recent news were the riots in 2022. I believe it was starting January 1st. The gas prices hugely increased to the point where for a lot of people throughout Kazakhstan it became unaffordable to buy gas. So riots broke out that January, mainly in Almaty and Astana. Buildings were burned. There were big marches. It lasted for about 2 or 3 weeks, but the dust settled pretty much, and it's now a very safe place to be. Don't have to worry about anything like that happening today, at least for now. We'll find out, I suppose. And that is the history of this whole area here. So now let's do the fun part and go play on Google Earth. Let me fire it up real quick, get off of UNESCO and go to Google Earth. Here we go. Let's check out this little slideshow first. I don't remember if it's a good one, but here's a slideshow of Almaty city. Almaty means apple orchard, which is really quite pleasant, I think. It's a big square here. Beautiful Christmas lights too, I like it. So yes, a very typical, big, major, bustling city. Lots of important buildings and gardens, and the beautiful mountains in the background, like I was saying, creates such a beautiful silhouette to this city. Big bunny. Yes, ooh, in the fall, very pretty. So yes, there is Almaty. You know what, let's zoom out real quick so you can see exactly where we are. If you're not sure where Kazakhstan is, if all you know about it is Borat, there's a lot more to this country than that. So we are right smack dab in Central Asia. You've got Russia up here, Mongolia, China, India, all the Stan countries, they're called over here. And there's Almaty right smack dab in the middle. Come up here, we can see beautiful Lake Balkhash. There's not really a lot of pictures to show you. It's a big old pretty lake. And the river, you can see it creating this kind of a lush green environment around it to the reservoir and flowing out. Let's take a look at some of the national parks. This is Altin Emel. Really beautiful. Ooh, nice tree. Some old rocks there. That's so cool. Oh, I gotta show you the petroglyphs too. Don't let me forget. Sorry if you can hear a car alarm outside. Some wind farms there. Perfect place for wind farms. Old trees and lakes with little friends. Cute, cute, cute. Sand dunes. Looks like some kind of succulent. Really beautiful landscapes here. Very varied, isn't it? There's another friend. Oh, a couple friends. Cute. We head down here to, I was telling you, was the lakes region, not too far because there's the border. Let's look here. Hello. To show you the gorgeous mountains up here. So beautiful. Look, there's ski lifts there. Goodness, how beautiful. This is, of course, just north of the Himalayas, so I believe it's the same kind of like continental movement that creates these kind of big, jagged, snowy mountains, right? The Indian subcontinent pushing up and creating these land masses. Here's the Almaty National Park. You can see all the pretty little lake areas throughout the mountains. It's so beautiful. Again, not what you really think when you think of Kazakhstan, right? Because Kazakhstan, you think that's the steppe land. That's grass as far as the eye can see. You don't think of waterfalls and streams and snow-capped mountains and wild flowers. And beautiful birch trees. so gorgeous. There's so much to explore in this region. Oh, that's gorgeous. While we're over here, let's check out the canyon. Oops. Oh my goodness, this tablet's been fighting against me. There's Charin, and it's down here somewhere. The Charin Canyon. Let's check it out. There's lots of canyons here, but this is the big famous one. It's just like a mini Grand Canyon. Beautiful rock formations. So much to see. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? Just a really beautiful little corner of Kazakhstan. There's the descent area. Some yurts here. You can camp out, just like the nomads would do. Isn't this beautiful? Again, not what you think of. You think of Kazakhstan, huh? Look at that viewpoint. So amazing. It is a gorgeous place, and look how big it is. Lots of little things to explore here. I'm not going to show you them all today because it's just pictures and pictures of the canyon, but please feel free to explore it on your own. Now, let's see. I feel like I'm not going to be able to find the rock art on my own. So, let's see. Okay, I have to type it in. Tanbali. Or Tamgali, as it says. Oh, see, I would have never found that. So here is the UNESCO site. You can see the canyon here they were talking about. And, there's the museum. This guy's going to give us a tour. Very Kazakh looking sign here. Some old little jewelry and artifacts that were found. Some of the rock art here. And I like how all the displays have the pictures of the petroglyphs. He brought his friend. Beautiful museum. Look at the stonework outside. Little map of the area. Some pottery from the area. Pictures of all the stones. He's showing you the Kazakh flag. Kazakhstan flag. Pictures of the stones here. And this is cool. A map of, I assume this is, I can't read Cyrillic, of all of the petroglyph sites in the area. Very cool. And this is all the petroglyph sites in Almaty. This is definitely the "you are here." But you can see they numbered all the other little sites where you can find very old, beautiful artwork. Showing off the bow and arrow here as well. Thank you to our tour guide. But yeah, really, really remarkable. Tambali. That's my favorite one. That's the best one. But yeah, here you can see some of that characteristic steppe grassland. There's that guy riding the horse. Just like nothing as far as the eye can see. So I imagine when you live in a place where you're a nomad, there's nothing as far as the eye can see, and there's this huge just chunk of this solid, smooth black rock that you think there must be something here, so you draw your deities on it. Little signpost telling you where to go. And yeah, really, really fascinating. Yeah, I think we saw the pictures. Okay. Really beautiful, isn't it? So there is so much to see in this region. You've got your lakes and rivers, you've got your mountains, and even archaeological sites, canyons, city. There's everything here in Almaty. Really, really remarkable. So yeah, I'm going to end it there today. There is so much more to see up in the mountains here and the beautiful lakes, but I'm going to leave that up to you to explore. You should definitely play around on your own. Let me know if you find anything else really cool in the region, because like I said, there's a lot more to see, especially around the canyon area. I hope you found this video relaxing and educational, And if you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing. Next on my channel, we're going to Guatemala. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. I hope that you have a good night. Good night. Oops. Okay. Good night. My battery saver just turned